I'm Julie Szamatulski. I am currently living in Dallas, Texas, and I work for Aramark in their refreshment services division as a sales associate. I am also a member of their Accelerate to Leadership program, which is the program that their college graduates enter into after their graduation from college. So I completed several internships when I was at Tech, one of them being with Southern Elegance Design, where I learned my whole base basically for event planning. Through this internship, I really learned that first off, that I like staying busy, and that I didn't mind the long weekends, which I think is something that's so important in the event industry. And most people think that they're so excited about it until they actually start working. And then they're like, oh man, I don't have weekends, I don't have Saturdays, I'm up late. But it's really rewarding though, and that's something that I really enjoyed about it. I loved the moments where it'd be 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon and we weren't sure we were going to be able to get the venue put together for the wedding. And then, lo and behold, at 6 p.m. when the wedding started, the facility looked beautiful. Just knowing that you had a part in that is so incredibly rewarding. I always joke that my mom's going to nursing school and that's her way to help people, but I am so squeamish, I could never do anything like that. So I do it by making sure that, people are taken care of in other ways, whether it be, managing their needs for office coffee, so it's one less thing they have to worry about every day. Or it could have even been when I was in college and doing an internship in events to make sure, that their special day was their special day and that nothing went wrong. So having that internship really helped me get this job today because it showed them that I had time management skills, but it also showed them how diverse I was. And any job is essentially a sales job. You're just always selling different things, whether you're on at a hotel in the sales department or even office coffee or even in retail. You are essentially selling a product or a service to a customer. So that really stuck out to them when I was in the interviewing process. But another thing that really stuck out to them was my involvement at Tech, which is something that I also strongly encourage all of you to do while you're in college, is to be involved. Now, you may not have to do it at the level that I did it at, but it is very important to have on your resume any leadership or any activities that you were involved in. Don't be one of the people who just, goes to school and then floats on by and doesn't get involved. So I found Aramark on accident, really. It's honestly an accident. I had a conversation with my professor earlier that morning about how I wasn't too excited about where, all of my interviews were going. I had done several interviews by this point of the semester. I hadn't really heard back from any companies. I was starting to get discouraged, and I just didn't know, what else to do. I didn't know what options he had. So I really went in and talked to him and we had a discussion. And so he told me he would do some research and I said, okay, so I came to his class that afternoon where Aramark was presenting and he comes up to me and tells me that I will be, interviewing with them after class. Now it had been raining in Lubbock and I had twirling practice right before his class. So of course I showed up in my Victoria's Secret leggings, my Notre Dame baseball t-shirt, my hair up in a bun, no makeup on, my rain boots, because I had just spent the past hour outside in the rain. And now I'm going to interview, which I totally wasn't prepared for. And I just kind of looked at my professor and looked down at my outfit and he was like, "You got a problem?" And I was like, "No, sir, but obviously I'm not dressed for an interview. And if they're following class, I don't have time to go home and change." And he said, "As long as you have a resume, they're not going to care." And I will be completely honest when I say she didn't. It was definitely a white elephant in the room for the first few minutes of our, conversation, our interview. And towards the end of our interview, I told her, I apologize completely for my appearance. I obviously hadn't planned on interviewing with you today. But I will tell you, though, that if I make it to the second round of interviews in Philadelphia, I will pack every single piece of business professional clothing that I own, and I will show you just so you can verify that I do know how to dress for an interview. And we both laughed, and before you knew it, I ended up in Philadelphia for the second round of interviews. And then my last week at Tech, when I was taking finals, I got the job offer. So it's kind of a big joke in my family that the job that I'm at today is the one I interviewed for in my leggings and rain boots and my Notre Dame shirt that we didn't expect to go anywhere. So something I would recommend for others is don't judge a company based on what you know. Actually research it. I didn't plan on interviewing with Aramark because from that point, all I had known that they were going to do was food service. I didn't know that they had hotels, that they were in stadiums and arenas, that they were in refreshments. I had no idea. So after I sat through that presentation that afternoon before I interviewed, I had a huge awakening basically about, like, wow, this is such a great company. And I had no idea. So I would say definitely, first, dress professionally for your interview. And second, make sure you research any company that you come into contact with, even if you don't think you're going to be interested in them, because you never know what exactly they're going to have to offer you. I managed it with making sure when I was tired, I went to bed. I could stay up all night and worry about, the job search and who was going to call me and who wasn't going to call me. But there was a point in time where I just, had to go take a nap or go to bed for the night because there was only so much you could do. I also had a lot of phone calls home to basically anybody that would talk to me, whether it be my parents, my best friends, my twirling coach from Fort Worth, anybody at that point, anybody who would pick up the phone and talk to me that I could bounce ideas off of, usually heard about my job search this past semester. And it also involved tears at times. It's stressful. And there were times, when you were just so heartbroken because you didn't get the offer you wanted, or you were just so stressed out over what happened that you just cried. You cried it out and then you were good to go. But it also involved, your typical whine and just not dealing with it. So when I was going through the interviewing process, one question that I always asked my interviewer at the end of our interview was, what 3 things should I know within the first 6 months to a year of being on the job? And, it could be a quality, it could be something I need to learn, it could be anything of that nature. But it was always interesting to see, too, what they would come up with. And a lot of them, to be honest, were thrown for a loop that I had a question like that. But it really showed a lot about not only who they were sending to interview me, but also the company itself by the answers.